Hi, welcome to the video testing REST APIs with curl. Test CRUD APIs with me, Nam Hà Minh from CodeJava.net. In this video, you'll learn how to test REST APIs using curl command. Test CRUD APIs, including create API, read retrieve API, update API, full update and partial update, and delete API. Firstly, what is curl? Curl is the free and open source command line tool for transferring data with URLs. It is widely used by developers for quickly testing REST APIs in command line. Curl is pre-installed on most major operating systems like macOS, Linux, and Windows. That means you can use curl right away to test REST APIs. And in case curl is not available on your computer, you can download and install curl from its official homepage at the URL curl.se. Okay, so I'm using a Windows computer, so I open a new command prompt. Okay, this is a new command prompt on Windows operating system. And you can just type curl command like this, and you see it says try curl -- help for more information. You can type curl big V to see the current version of curl, and you see I'm using curl version 7.83.1 on Windows. Now let's understand curl basic syntax. So basically we type curl followed by some options and then the URL of the REST API we want to test. And to see the help content, you can type curl hyphen two hyphens help to see the most common options. Let me show you. Type curl hyphen hyphen and help to see the most common options of the curl command. You see, and you can type curl hyphen hyphen help category to see overview of all categories. Curl two hyphens and help and category, and you see it shows all categories of commands of options provided by curl. And you can type curl two hyphens help all to see all the command options. Let me show you. Curl help all. You see it lists all the options of the curl command. So this is a good reference to use curl command for testing REST APIs. You see. Okay. And when testing REST APIs, you can use the option -i to see the response headers and -v to see the verbose output that includes headers of both request and response. And to format JSON in the output, you can use the pipe syntax like this. On Windows, use the vertical line and JQ after the curl command. And on Mac OS or Linux, you can use a pipe syntax like this, vertical line and followed by JSON_pp to format the JSON of the output. Next, I'm going to show you how to test some retrieve REST APIs with curl command. I'm going to use the following endpoint paths. The first one is a public API provided by GitHub at the URL api.github.com/AutoCAD, and the second API endpoint path is for listing all products And the third API endpoint path is to get a specific product by ID. And for retrieve REST API, the request method is get by default. And to test retrieve REST API, we use the command curl followed by the URL, and we can also use the I or V flag to show the response headers or the headers of both response and request. Okay, now let me test the first retrieve REST API provided by GitHub. So type the command like this: curl api.github.com/octocat. And you see, this is the response. You see, it shows a picture of a cat made by characters. Very cool, right? And to see the details of the response headers, you can use the flag dash lower I like this. Okay, and you can see the response headers, the HTTP status code to our OK, and you see various response headers, so you can know the details of the response. And you see it displays the random code of the card here. The card is saying a random code. Okay, and now I use the hyphen lower v flag here to see the verbal output. With the hyphen v flag, I can see the details of both request and response. And you see this part is of the request get HTTP 1.1 host. You see, and the second part is of the response. Here you see status code and response headers, and then the body of the response is a picture of a cat saying a random code like this. Very cool, right? And now I test the second API on localhost. So I type curl and dash v and localhost port number 8080 because I have an application running on localhost and it exposes the API via this endpoint path API / v1 / products to see the list of products. And you see with the dash v option, it shows the details of request here and the details of the response here, and you see the response body is a JSON document that represents a list of product. And to format the JSON in the output, you can pipe the curl command with JQ like this. And you see now we can see the JSON output is more readable. You see there are two products with ID 1 and ID 2 here. Okay, so it's pretty easy to test retrieve REST API using curl command. And now let me test the third API localhost 8080 API v1 products to see the details of the product ID 1. And you see the product ID 1 JSON document here. And to format JSON, you can use the by syntax like this. You see the JSON is formatted. I want to test the retrieve API to get the details of product ID 2. You see the response JSON document here, and if I type an ID which does not exist in the database, and I got the status code for not found, you see. Next, I'm going to show you how to test create REST API with curl command. I use the endpoint path is /API/v1/products, and for create REST API, the request method is HTTP post, and the content type of the request is application JSON, and the request body must contain a JSON document that represents a product with two fields, name and price, you see. And to test the create REST API, we use the curl command like this, curl and the flag h to specify the header of the request to tell the server that the content type of the request is application JSON, and to specify the request body, which is a JSON document. Here we use the d flag here, and then the endpoint path of the API. Okay, let me show you how. Okay, so now we have two products. We have two products here, ID1 and ID2. Okay, now let me test the create API curl -v to see the verbal output, and -h to specify the request header, content type application /JSON. So the server knows that the content type of the request is a JSON document, and then we use the -d flag here to specify the content of a JSON document that represents the product. Here we specify the field name. Note that you need to escape the double quotes using the backslash character like this. Name, new product, and the second field is price. And for the numeric value, you don't have to use double quotes, so I specify the price here. Okay, and then the URL, the endpoint path API /v1/products. Okay, successful. You can see the request here, post and content type application JSON, and the response is the JSON document that represents the newly added product here, new product, price 789.56. You see, HTTP status code is 200, successful. Now, if I type this command again, it should list 3 products. You see, now we have the newly added product ID3 here, new product, price. So, to test the create REST API, you need to specify the request header, content type, application JSON, and specify the JSON document. Now let me test adding another product. For example, Samsung Galaxy 2, and the price is 987.65. Okay, done, successful. And now you see the newly added product Samsung Galaxy 2 in the list here. Next, I'm going to show you how to test full update REST API with curl command. So I'm going to test the API with the endpoint path is /API/v1/products and the ID of the product. And For full update REST API, the request method is HTTP put, and the content type of the request is application JSON, and the request body is a JSON document that represents the product information, name and price, like this. Okay, so to test full update REST API, we use this command curl and the flag X to specify the HTTP method for the request put, and specify the header for the content type and data and the URL. Okay, now let me show you in command line. Okay, so now we have 4 products, and now I want to update the product ID 3. Yeah, to update its price and name, so I use this command curl -v to see verbal output, and X to specify the request method is put for full update API, and the flag H to specify the content type of the request is application JSON. Okay, and then the JSON document that represents the product information, name. The product name is Microsoft Surface Pro. Okay, and the price of the product is 799.99. Okay, and then the URL. If you see the command is too long on Windows, you can use the caret character here to break the command in the next line, like this. And then I type the URL. Okay, enter. Sorry, something wrong here. I need to use the backslash character like this. Sorry, I need to specify the ID of the product to be updated, ID 3 in the URL. /3, yeah. So this is a command for testing a full update API. My mistake. Okay, and the URL. Okay, done, successful. Now you see the request details put /API v1 products 3 content type application JSON, and the response HTTP 200 successful content type application JSON, and the output of the response is a JSON document that represents the updated product. You see name got updated, price got updated. Now I run this command to list all products. Okay, you see the product ID 3 got updated here. Name Microsoft Surface Pro, price 799.99. Next, I'm going to test partial update REST API using curl command. So the API endpoint path is like this, and the request method for partial update is patch, and the content type is application JSON, and request body is the JSON document. And because it is a partial update, so we can specify only the price of the product that needs to be updated. Okay, so we use the command like this, curl x patch, and specify the header and data and URL. Okay, so I am going to update the price of the product ID for Samsung Galaxy 2 here. So I use this command ask patch and specify the content type header of the request, and now I use the CRUD character here to break the command in a new line. Okay, so I specify the JSON document here. I want to update only the price of the product ID 4, so I specify the price is 1000. Okay, and then the URL is localhost 8080 API v1 products ID 4. Okay, done, successful. You can see the request details patch content type application JSON and the response to our OK content type application JSON, and the body of the response is a JSON document that represents the newly updated product. You see the price got updated to 1000 here from this O value. And finally, let's use the curl command to test a delete REST API with the endpoint path is like this, and the request method is delete. So we use this command curl and use the ask flag to specify the request method is delete, and then the URL, the endpoint path of the delete REST API. Okay, now I want to delete the product ID 2 Amazon Kindle file here. So I type this command curl v x delete and then the URL API v1 products and ID 2. Okay, now you see the details of the request delete here and the details of the response. I got the status 204, meaning no content. That means the product has been removed. Now I run this command again, and now the product ID 2 was actually removed. Okay, so far you have learned how to test REST APIs using curl command. Let me sum up the commands you have learned so far. To test Retrieve API, use this command, and to test CRUD API, use this command, and this is the command to test full update API, and this is the command to test partial update API, and this is the command to test delete API. And there are some options which you can use. -I that shows response headers, -v to show verbal output that includes headers of the request and response, -x that specifies request method, -h that specifies request header, and -d that specifies data in the request payload. I hope you found this video helpful for testing REST APIs with curl. Please subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and share this video. Thanks for watching.